So, for those of you who, most of you guys know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Carrie Story. I am a metal clay artist, instructor, manufacturer, just like to play with clay. So, this is the first time we're trying out a live recorded class for doing this, and we have all kinds of technical difficulties. So we actually found a platform that's going to work better than this one. Unfortunately, this one is really limited on time. So that's why we're using this quick format. We're just going to stick with a half hour. I'm going to do a little of the work offline, and then we'll post the whole video on the website. So you can go back and see some of the work afterwards as well. Okay. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tell you kind of how it's going to outline today. Again, this is going to be kind of a quick little thing. I'm going to go through all of the little technical things that you need to know about different kinds of glasses, different kinds of clay, and what to look for, because you're focused on compatibility is really what you need to focus on when you're trying to decide how you're going to be firing glass in metal clay. Okay, so I'm going to go through all those things with you real quick. Then I'll show you a few examples of the glass, a few examples of the metal clay pieces. Then I'm going to actually demonstrate what I'm going to make for you, and then I'll finish making that while I'm offline so that we don't have to use our time up for that. And at the end, I have a little coupon for you. But what I'm going to have you do is write your questions in the chat window. That way, I'll go through all this material. When we get to the end, I'll kind of go back through that chat window with as much time as we have left, and I'll get through as many of the questions as I can, okay? And I can also finish adding some of those. If we do run out of time, I can answer some of them in the second recording aspect of everything so that I can get to all of them and not worry about the time. Okay, so let's see. Write your questions in the chat. Oh, just so you guys know, in case you don't see it on your screen, if you move your cursor or hover over your screen, some menus will come up. There is one that looks like a little bubble, a little chat bubble. Click on that and you can send a question. You can send it to me or the entire group, okay? I'm going to try to figure out why I keep going in and out of focus here. I think it's trying to focus on me a little bit. So, okay, hopefully that will fix the problem. Okay, so with all of that, let me go straight into the presentation and the data and stuff like that. Oh, if I didn't say that, this is all going to be recorded on the website. It'll be available in a couple hours for you, okay? Okay, let me share my screen, and we'll go over there and play this presentation for you. Okay, so today, now you guys can see the whole presentation, I'm pretty sure, yes. Okay. We're going to go through a few of the glass types, not every type, but the common ones that you can run into. The metal types, metal clay types, firing temperatures, firing setups, and I don't write. Let's see if I can. Nope, I can't see it. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the chat window so I can see. I can't. Okay. Love technical things on the first time around. Okay, so we're going to go through some of these things real quickly. Each one of these pages has some examples for you, and I'll talk about them a little bit as I go through them. This one to the far right is fine silver on a lamp work, like a flat donut type of lamp work bead. It's actually got a CZ embedded into it as well, okay? And this one is a bronze piece with dichroic glass, okay? Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is which kind of glass you have, because that is going to make the most difference in what you're going to be able to fire. Okay, these are the common things that you're going to run into. Fusing glass or dichroic glass, those are basically the same kinds of things. You have different coefficients, but when you, and that really plays in more when you're making the glass piece, which we're not going to talk about much today, but the coefficient is really the rate at which the glass expands and contracts. So you have to use compatible glass with itself. When you apply that to metal plate, you're not really too focused on that. It does play in, but on pieces as small as we work with, you don't really see that factor in much. The fusing glasses will fire anywhere between 1100 and 1500. Okay, they're safe during those ranges. Now at 1500, you're going to start to see some more drastic slumping happening. Okay, and your glass piece may distort a bit. So anywhere between 11 and 1500, you're safe, but at 1500, your glass may start distorting a little bit. Okay. Lamp work or borosilicate glass. This is where you see more of the specialty types of glasses. They use all sorts of different glasses to make lampwork beads and more intricate designs. And this is where we don't know what they've combined necessarily. So this is where we kind of start to run into challenges. It's generally safe to fire those between 12 and 1300. Really, the temperature can go much, much higher than that, but what you don't know is what combinations they've used. And you also see distortion in the colors. And so we'll talk a little bit about fuming and things like that, but that's where you tend to see some of those types of issues happen. Sea glass. We love sea glass. The challenge with sea glass is we have no idea what it is. It is an unknown glass, okay? That is a big challenge because that means we really don't know how it's going to react in a kiln. So again, 12, 1300 is a good temperature to be safe with sea glass. The biggest downside to sea glass is that cool surface that it has, that matte finish, if you get that too hot, you're really doing what's called polishing the glass. You're really melting the surface of the glass, and it loses that awesome matte texture to it. So that's really the only downside to going very hot with the sea glass. Sometimes you can lose colors, things like that, but generally it's that you're losing the matte finish to it. Okay, okay, so those are our common glasses. So now we're going to talk about the clays a little bit. Most of us know fine silver 999, the firing range in just temperature alone is 1100 to 1650. Okay. Bronze, now these are based on lots of different kinds of bronze clays, okay, but on average the bronzes range about 14 to 1500 degrees in the firing temperature. Sterling and copper clays fire much, much higher than that. Many of the copper clays are, start about 1600, most of them like 1700. And the sterlings are all in the 1600s. So if you're talking, we're going to go back and review this, but if you're talking about what temperatures the glasses can fire at, that rules out your sterling and copper clays because they're just too high in order to get a proper sinter on them. This piece, again, is another one of the lamp work flat donut pieces with silver clay laid over the surface of it. Okay, so based on those types of glasses and types of bronzes, this is what you're looking for. Okay. With your silver, if you're using if you're using a fusing or a dichroic type of glass, you're going to get 1330 for kind of just a tack. It won't slump at all, but it's just going to stick to the surface of your metal. Up to 1450 will give a slight slump to the piece of glass. Okay, 30 minutes is a nice safe firing temperature for that. That's a high enough temperature range for your silver to get a decent center level to it as well. Okay. Bronze with the dichroic or the fusing glass, 1500, right? Up to an hour. So with the bronze, you can start to see more of that slump in the glass. Generally, because you're firing in carbon, you're not going to see that as dramatic, okay? But you can start to see that happen more because you are trying to fire at a higher temperature, right? Now, I'm again being generic with the brand of bronze, okay? But what you're looking for is something in that range. Okay, silver, because it's firing at a low temperature, can work with the lampwork or the borosilicate and with the sea glass as well. Okay. Okay. So firing setups. Now, this is where you want to be a little more careful because it depends on the design of your piece. So with the silver, if you don't need a carbon container for the silver. So the only thing that you need to worry about is protecting the kiln or the ceramic board or whatever you fire on from the glass melting and sticking to it. So, and believe me, I have glued pieces to the kiln, so it's not a good idea. So be really careful when you design your piece. If you've got enough metal clay behind the piece of glass, or I guess I should say underneath the piece of glass, then if it melts, it's not really going to be a problem. But if you have a strange, let's say your kiln overshoots the temperature dramatically for some reason, and you hit 1700, then your glass would really become liquefied and could spill off the sides of your metal piece and onto the kiln floor or shelf or whatever it is that you're firing on. So you do want to protect it. You always want to be firing on something that's protected. So there's two things that you can use to do that. There's a product called kiln wash or ceramic shelf wash, and it's a liquid that you paint onto the, it's kind of like a powdery liquid is what I'd call it. You paint it onto the surface of the shelf and let that dry, and then you fire on top of that, and you have to redo it every once in a while. Or you can fire on top of fiber paper to protect it, okay? With the bronze, that's where things get a little bit different and more complicated. So if you're firing in a carbon box, if you were to put carbon on top of the glass, it would melt into the surface of the glass. So that's a problem. We need to protect the surface of the glass from that happening. So what we're going to do is create a steel mesh box and put a little fiber paper on top of it. And I'll show you some pictures of that so you can see it. And that is what's going to be protecting our glass. Okay. Fuming. You're going to want to vent your kiln to avoid fuming. Now there's two things that are happening that we can refer to as fuming. And it's because our terminology is a little strange because of metal clay versus other different kinds of glass working. So two things happen. One is silver can react with certain kinds of glass. That's why this picture happens to be on this page. The yellow haze to this piece, That is actually a fuming result, okay, between the silver and the glass that was used. It turned that glass a little bit yellow, okay? The other type of fuming that we refer to is really the smoke from the burnout, okay? The smoke from the burnout can get, I'll call it, embedded or adhered to the surface of the glass and make it cloudy. You can see that also happened to this piece. You can tell here, okay? It's a little bit cloudy as well as yellowy, okay? So when you're firing glass in your kiln, most kilns have a little vent plug, or you could open the door just a crack or something like that. You want to make sure to allow for sure that smoke to escape when you do the burn off. Okay, that will help dramatically. Okay, and I probably should have put this first, but the other thing that you want to do is after you do all your metal clay work, clean the glass really well with alcohol before you put it in the kiln. Any teeny tiny piece of metal clay will actually fire onto the surface of the glass, and it will mess up your piece. You'll be able to see that metal on top of the surface of the glass. Okay. Okay, this is a picture of how you do the carbon setup, and I have another piece that I'm going to show you live after I get off this screen here. But this is a fine steel mesh, okay? What you're going to do is cut a little piece of it to make yourself a little shelf or a box, you could call that. You're going to lay that, you can see on this piece here, these little polka dots, those are the glass that's under the shelf, okay? So I've done the burn off of this piece. I've laid it on top of my carbon. I put this box on top of it to protect the glass. Then I cut a piece of fiber paper to match the same size, lay that fiber paper on top of that glass as well, so none of the ash or anything gets in there, and then I pour the carbon to fill the rest of the box up. Okay, so a couple little things. The silver clays are definitely the most versatile because of the firing temperature ranges. So you can do lots of different kinds of glass with those. The bronze clays have a shorter temperature range, so you really, you know, you can try some of the other glasses, but you really are safest with a fusing or a dichro type of glass. Okay. The most common firing schedule is somewhere around, if you look right here, 1330 for 30 minutes. Okay, that's a very common firing schedule. It'll work wonderful with the silvers and the dichro. Make sure that you allow your pieces to cool naturally, because, and I'm not going to get into this too much, but if you shock the glass, of course, it can crack. Okay, so it does need to cool naturally or anneal. A common firing schedule for the bronze is to use something around 13 to 14 for an hour. You can do 15 as well. Okay, but 13 to 14 is a nice good range and that doesn't change your glass. If you go up to the 1500, that's where you may see some slumping occur. Okay. Okay, I told you I was going to have a little coupon for you. Here's a little coupon. Oh, I didn't tell you this. Oops, get rid of that thing. Okay, so the 5-star white, light, and standard bronzes are compatible with firing glasses in them. Okay. And here's the little coupon for you. It's off all 5-star bronze clays during April. So for all you guys watching this, just type in mixing glass 20. Okay, you're gonna get 20% off all those bronze clays. But I do want to focus on the design of this particular piece real quick, because I'm going to show you, I don't have this one anymore, but I'm going to show you another one that's similar. This is a look that you can create because it looks like the cabochon is actually floating, right? But it does have a piece of silver right behind it. There is a oval shaped piece of silver behind here. I laid this piece of glass on top of it, and then I used something higher to protect the sides. You don't really need a bezel when you're working with glass and metal clay because the glass will stick to the clay. But what you do need is to protect it from getting kind of popped off there. If something were to hit it from the side angle or something like that, it could get popped off. So you want to protect it a little bit so that it's not just standing off the surface of your piece and can get knocked off. Okay. Okay, let me stop sharing this. There we go. Oh my goodness, I got lots of questions already. Okay, and I got 10 minutes left. So let me show you some of the examples real quick and then I'll hit some questions, okay? So let me put my down here. Hopefully you'll be able to see this stuff. Okay, so I told you I was going to show you a little bit of the screen. This is what the fine steel mesh looks like. It's very, you can see, you know, based on the size of my hand here, it's a very, very fine mesh. Okay, you want to use something like that. I just cut a piece of it off and make myself a box that fits over the piece of glass that I want to protect. Okay, so I would fire something like that. Okay, let's see if I can get that any brighter. There you go. Nope, not really. But you get the idea. So that's what that looks like. Then I'm going to show you a couple pieces here. This is the concept that I was telling you. If you protect the sides of the glass, you can make the glass just kind of sit in its own little spot here. And I don't need a bezel or anything for it to hold it into place. See how I did that on the back side? And the same is really happening on this one. This is, I need a pointer here. These pieces have little chunks of clay to the sides of them that just help protect it. So even though it's standing up off the surface, it's got other pieces that are protecting it from getting hit and knocked off. Okay, so you can kind of see it. By putting this across here, you can tell, you know, there's nothing that's going to actually get knocked off. That one's probably the riskiest, but those other ones are perfectly fine. Okay, and this piece is white bronze. This is actually white bronze. Color, I wish I could get the color a little bit better for you, but I think I need to, yeah, that's a little bit better. There you go. Okay. Okay, and then I told you that I would show you a couple different kinds of pieces of glass. Obviously, sea glass. The really cool colors, of course, are the riskiest ones. Everybody knows how that rule works, right? But I've fired sea glass like this very successfully at 1200 many, many, many times. Okay. This is fusing and dichroic glass. Okay, this is just what we would normally call a piece of dichroic glass. This piece, let's see if I can get, there we go. This is the back piece of this one is regular red fusing glass, and then there's a piece of dichro that's laid onto the top of this, and they were fused together. Okay, so both of those fire, you know, in the same range with the same settings that I talked about. And then this is an example of lampwork beads that will fire in place. Again, very successful around the 1200 mark, but you do need to be very careful about the color change and the fusing, because there's no way to know what the artist used to make something like that. Okay. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be making. I told you that I was going to make a little piece, but I can't do that with the time that we have. So what I'm going to show you here real quick is I rolled this piece from the mat. I'm going to end up putting this wonderful little dichro right there. Okay, I've got some leaves already pre-cut as well, but I'm going to use to protect the sides, kind of like a little bezel type of thing. So I'm going to, just use some paste, connect that, lay those over the top, cut my bales, all those good things, and it'll be good to go. But I'm going to do that offline. So with all of that, let me put this back up and let me see if I can answer some questions. Okay. Let's see. We got a lot of questions. Okay. Not everyone's interface is exactly the same. Okay. Sea glass changed color. Sea glass changed color, yes, if too hot. And it's, again, the challenge is knowing what kind of sea glass we're talking about. And we just don't. We don't know what kind of sea glass we're talking about. So it's always, that one is always just a guess. But again, 1200, usually you're pretty safe with that one. And it will most likely lose the frost appearance. Okay, yes. I'm assuming that it's safe to fire glass in carbon. Woohoo! I do that with beads if you need any more photos. Okay, yes. I fire glass in carbon all the time because I work with a lot of bronzes. That's why I made the little box. I just protect everything. So you still want as much carbon as you can to touch the bronze. So if you only protect the one little area, that will be just fine. Okay. Could you please go over the fine steel mesh box again? I got that, I think. Tell us what the firing time for silver lamp work. Oh, silver and lamp work is going to be 12 to 1300 maximum. Closer to 1200 is better, safer. Do you have to prepare the clay to accept the glass, such as wetting? Yes, I'm actually going to put a paste on the clay in order to set the glass down into it. That's a better connection than just laying the glass on the clay. I believe the logic to that one is that if I just rolled a piece of clay, the surface of that is going to come together very tight because it's straight clay. It hasn't been diluted, is a way to explain that. So the metal particles are quite tight together. As that fires, the glass doesn't have as much surface to stick into. The paste is much looser. So as that fires, the glass has more area to kind of melt or slump into and hold on a little better. Okay, so putting the glass onto paste tends to work a little better than straight onto clay. Okay. Have you encountered any problems with firing the red glass with silver metal clay? You know, I gotta be honest about that one. I have never fired that particular red glass with clay before. So I don't know. I have that piece left over from something else, so I haven't tried that. If anybody knows that answer, red fusing glass, if it fires, let me know. Can you use aluminum hydrate to protect the kiln shelf from glass sticking? You can, and I would tell you not to. Because aluminum hydrate is bad, bad, bad stuff. Okay, we really need to get away from using that for doing what we're doing. But yes, you can do that. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? I'm right at the time. Do you place a lid on the carbon box? I do, Sally. My carbon boxes, my firing schedule for my bronze clays, I fill the box all the way up with as much carbon as absolutely possible. Okay, put a lid on it with no hole in it. The less oxygen you have, the better that is. Okay, that's why I do it that way. What about vermiculite, Bonnie? Bonnie, if you had a problem, the glass would pretty much just kind of go through the vermiculite and stick. So I don't think that that would work very well. Blah, 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 cream-like consistency. Barbara, kiln wash is half aluminum hydrate and half kaolin mixed with water to a cream-like consistency. I did not know that. That's a good thing to know. I knew that once it was powder on the shelf, you weren't supposed to be breathing it. But I think if you just put aluminum hydrate straight on, it's much more airborne, which is why I was concerned about doing it that way. Well, thank you guys. Okay, so I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to record the rest of that project. We're going to load it to the website. So if you go to clayrevolution.com, there's a Learning Center tab. It will be there in an hour, 2 hours, something like that. Okay, so we were going to work on putting this onto here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use a little paste. Lay that right into place. Okay. Now press it down with just a little bit of force, but not too much. I really want the paste to kind of squeeze out of the bottom. Okay. Now just stick these little guys right into place. And I'm using a rubber tip sculptor to do this. Yeah. Make those connections so that those pieces don't fall off anyway. I just kind of blend those straight into the base piece of clay. Okay. Then I'm going to probably just cut a little fail on this thing. Let's do this. I'm going to roll this up around here. Normally I would wait to put that on until it was dry. So just so you know, I would put this all together and assemble when dry, but that allows you to see the end result.